in Revelation, it says the door was opened, or the something was opened. Actually says it 7 times in the book of Revelation. That the door was opened. Revelation 11, the temple was opened. In Revelation 12, the earth opened her mouth. In Revelation 15, the Ark of the Testimony was opened. Again, 1911, heaven is opened. And then uh, in Revelation 20, the books were opened, and it says the books were opened twice. So in Revelation 7, book of Revelation, there's 7 things that were opened. It uses that phrase, was open. Now, I didn't look at all the open phrases. There's actually some other references. Of course, the seals, the 7 seals are opened. So this idea of opening, um, in other words, making something a revelation of something that was not before made known. And then I find it interesting that the open, the word open itself, instead of just saying something was opened, the idea of something being open in Revelation 5, 5 times it's the scroll, and then Revelation 10, it's 2 more times it's the scroll. So there's this idea of something being open, but this book, the scroll that's going to become important in Revelation 5, is also connected with something being opened. So Revelation 4 is actually beginning of many of these themes that, as we'll see from some of the other imagery that's taking place, there's a pattern that begins here that's carried throughout the rest of the book of Revelation. So what's significant here is that the door is this barrier or place between two domains, and this place of domain is a place of transition, or a place that someone would pass over or has to pass through. And then to pass over, to pass through this door, to go through this door, then means that there has to be, well, the two domains, there's conflict between the two domains. And so the price or the penance or the cost to go from one domain to another is paid at the door. This is the whole idea of Passover, for example. At Passover in Egypt, the blood is placed on the door, the lintel and the doorposts of the house, and the idea was that the price to pass over from one domain to another, or the price for the children of Israel to become free and pass out or pass over and come out of slavery in Egypt, was the blood of the lamb. It's the same idea as the angel of death passing over. We usually call it the angel of death. Those that did not have the blood on the doorpost, the angel passed over, and of course, since the price of passing over is blood, and there's no blood of the lamb on the doorpost, then the firstborn must die, right? The price to pass over has to be paid. So actually, it's the angel of life, because the angel of life passes over, because the angel himself, the angel of life, shed his own blood so he could pass over. But anyways, it's usually put in the negative for fallen creatures, just like Revelation. Things are usually put in the negative. But the idea again is, you see that the door is a place of significance where you pass over. This is the same idea, like for example in the story of Samson, when he's taken and he's placed between the pillars, and those pillars were supposed to be the pillars of the gate of the temple or of the city. And then there's Samson at this place of Passover, and of course, he pushes the pillars. He has the strength to push the pillars, and then of course, because he's at the pillars between the two domains, that pathway closes, and those who are part of the domain actually die. All the people in that are in the city, they perish. So again, this idea of what happens at the door is the gate, the boundary between these two domains, and then there's life and death happen at the door. This is one of the reasons why in Deuteronomy, for example, when at the door, the houses of the door, the children of Israel were to write the law, and they were place it on the doorposts of their houses, because the law was when you come to the door, you saw the law on the doorpost. The law was the law that governed the domain of the house. And of course, what goes in or out of that house was supposed to measure up to the law of God. It's the same idea that I was saying about us as personal people, that there's doorway to our being, and we are supposed to guard the doorways of our being, and we're supposed to measure what goes in our mouth or what comes out of our mouth. Does it measure up to the law of God? Same thing with our eyes, to watch what we see. Um, so the idea is, again, that the doorway is a gateway where the place of authority is, and that at the doorway everything is measured in terms of what comes in or out of the domain. And this is what's happening here, obviously in Revelation chapter 4 as well, that there's going to be a measurement of what goes in and what comes out of the domain. That whether if what goes in and comes out of the domain is right or in harmony with the law, then that's rightness or righteousness. And if what comes in or comes out of the domain is not in harmony with God's law, then the righteousness. That's wickedness, or we call it evil. And of course, then then you determine the state of the domain by what comes in or comes out of that domain. Does that make sense?
So you're referring to like verse 7 when he talks to Philadelphia? Because that's
Yes.
what it seems like you're saying. These things that he who is holy, he who is true, he has the key of David. He who opens, no one shuts, and shuts, and no one opens.
Yes. Right.
Right.
So
Yep.
yes, so that's where we'll go next. Very good. So the idea here is that this imagery, Revelation, this open door imagery or this door imagery is going to be connected in Revelation 4. It's already been referenced a couple times in the book of Revelation. And of course, um,
Three times.
Sue just mentioned Philadelphia, and then of course the other church mentions the door is what? And it's something about
Laodicea.
being opened is Laodicea. So this open door in Revelation 4 is directly connected to the open door experience of Philadelphia and the desire for the door of Laodicea to be opened, right? And
Mhm.
both of the open doors imagery in Philadelphia, of course, we know the open door imagery in Philadelphia deals with what event?
1844.
Yes. So the open door of Philadelphia is connected to the event of 1844. They actually realized after the disappointment that Jesus went from the holy place to the most holy place. So there was a door opened in heaven, and Jesus moved from the holy place to the most holy place. That's the open door of the Church of Philadelphia. And then what's the open door of what's the door that God desires to be opened in the Church of Laodicea?
Oh, yeah, our hearts. Verse 20.
Right. So it's literally says, Jesus says literally, I stand at the door and knock, right? So the idea of standing, or Michael standing up here, standing is this position of judgment. And of course, he stands at the door. And why is he standing at the door? Well, the door is a place of judgment, right? And if we open the door, then what happens?
We're letting him in.
Well, it's positive judgment. He comes in, he sups with us, right?
Mm.
And we partake of the gifts of his rightness. He's going to clothe our nakedness, and he's going to we'll buy from gold tried in the fire. That actually the marriage imagery stuff takes place. If we open the door, then there's a marriage that takes place. That's positive judgment. Of course, if we don't open the door, then what happens?
That's it.
Well, we'll be
The
spewed
certain
out of his
choice.
mouth, right? Literally, there'll be a rejection. The obviously the positive is the intimacy of the marriage that takes place. If we do not open the door, then there's a rejection that literally Laodicea will be spewed out of his mouth. There's this it's this judgment process. So it's very significant here that Revelation 4 verse 1 with the open door imagery, um, is directly connected in the context to the Church of Philadelphia and to the Church of Laodicea. And by the way, this was not this this fact or this insight was not wasted on early Advent leaders. Those who went through the 1844 experience and understood what the open door was for the Church of Philadelphia and the challenges that came to Laodicea. Early Adventists connected Revelation 4, verse 1, and therefore connected Revelation chapter 4 to the experience of 1844. And by the way, it makes sense when you begin to understand. Remember, I talked about Exodus 19 and the idea of the trumpet and coming up is a Sinai language. Well, early Advent believers, they understood that 1844 was a Sinai experience, that they had come out of the darkness of the Dark Ages, their Egypt, and in 1798 was actually a Passover experience. And then they realized that 1844 was a Sinai experience, and that's when they actually came to see a revelation of what did they figure out at 1844?
Oh, that he went to the most holy place.
Right, and in the most holy place, they saw
The Ark and the Law.
the Ten Commandments, the Ark, the Law, right? And of course, that was a Sinai event. That's in the Exodus story. That's when God reveals His law.
Yes.
So early Advent believers saw 1844 as a Sinai event, and so it makes perfect sense. It made perfect sense to them here that Revelation 4, verse 1 is using Sinai language to describe a Sinai event. That God's law was made plain in 1844, and that now that God's law has been made plain, now the standard or measure of judgment has been made plain. Now everything is going to be measured according to the standard of God's law, which is the Ten Commandments, which is a transcript of the character of God. So this whole concept here is not just rooted in some crazy idea, that it's rooted in the biblical language of Revelation chapter 4, verse 1.
Mm.
Does that make sense?